Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonato. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross, a former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer. We appreciate Higher Echelon sponsoring this podcast as always. And we're going to review Army's 24-7 win over Florida Atlantic. First off, we want to just give you a little insight about our coverage. We had Seth Mendelson down in Boca Raton for the game. His game story is on BlackKnightNation.com. It's on all our socials also. I wrote a story about the defense stepping up. That story is on our website. Check out our Instagram page too. Seth was our boots on the ground at Florida Atlantic, and he bumped into a couple people. He'll share his stories in a moment about that. Check out our YouTube channel too. Give us a subscribe there. I haven't gotten the press conference stuff up yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing that. We'll see if I'll do that by the end of the night. Ooh, I just posted a quick thoughts story too on our website. Some insights that we'll talk a little bit about as this podcast progresses. We might be getting a couple other people jumping in with us. If we don't, we'll be in with you throughout. And Seth, you're back from Florida, so maybe you could talk to us a little bit about that trip and being boots on the ground. You sent me some pretty good interviews from pregame that I posted on our Instagram and some on our YouTube. What was that trip like for you? Seth froze.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Can you see me?
Can't see you. Can't see you. Why don't you log back in and I'll talk
do
more.
that. I'll do it right now.
Why don't you log out and then log back in?
Okay.
We'll get Seth back in a second.
There it is. I'm back.
All right, he's back that quickly. Not two times in a row. I had Dave Hegman on middle of last week, and we had a little bit of StreamYard issues. So, all right. So, what was the experience like? Now, the weather was 90 what at kickoff?
They said it was 91. It felt like about 131.
Nah.
It was impossible. I got to the game. I got to the parking lot about 10 o'clock for the 12 o'clock start. And I went in to see some Army fans. There were a bunch of people from West Point in the parking lot. Graduates, family, friends, and I got to tell you, everybody was just dripping wet. It was pretty incredible, and they couldn't have been more fun. I got to meet. You have to help me here. The backup tight end. He almost caught a ball. What's his name? I met his
Parker
parents.
Poloski.
Parker Poloski. Met his parents. Couldn't have been any nicer. If they're on the podcast tonight, hi, thank you for helping me. Real nice people. I met a couple of retired generals. I met Jeff Monken's high school buddies who follow the team around. They go to 1 or 2 games a year, and I guess from Illinois, right? He's from Illinois.
Yeah, Illinois.
And yeah, so
Juliet.
they travel a couple of times to follow him, and they were a lot of fun. And the one interesting thing they said was they knew Jeff was going to be successful from way back when. He just had that mentality, just get up and go, take charge mentality. And they all said, they 3 guys, they all said they had no doubt this guy was going to be successful, and they're very proud of him. And they're convinced he's the right man and of course we are too, the right man for the job here at West Point.
Well, after in his 11th year, I would think so. I mean,
yeah, well, he's doing pretty good. But it was hot. It was very hot. They sold about 24,000 tickets for the game. My guess is at game time, they probably had the biggest attendance. I would say they probably had about 12,000 there.
Jeez.
By the end of halftime, the band their band was there, but some people seemed to disappear. The student body, they had probably 5,000 or 6,000 students there. They disappeared. Now they were losing the game, and maybe that's part of it. But I think that the Heat had a lot to do it. By the end of the game, there was maybe 3,000 people there, 4,000 people there, of which maybe half were Army fans, which is pretty cool for Army. And the players noticed that the Army fans stuck around more or less. I will tell you that after the press conference, I'm used to going out into the parking lot and seeing fans still tailgating. There was nobody in that parking lot or any parking lot. They all wanted the game ended, and my guess is they got into the air conditioned cars and hightailed it out of there because it was hot. It was hot, and Army was wearing black uniforms,
Yeah,
so it was hot for those guys too.
of course they were. I don't know. It almost turned into an Army home game in the second half, didn't it?
It seemed like it. It seemed like it. I mean, they most of the fans there were definitely at the end. Now, again, Army was up 17-7. Then, of course, 24-7. So, the FAU fans started to file out. They said, well, "Let's get out of here," with the weather and the score. But the Army
Yeah.
fans stuck around. But the cheering definitely was much stronger for West Point than it was for FAU at the in the second half.
It's a hot topic today. No pun intended. A hot topic on how many fans were left after that game. And you know what? The game time scheduled way ahead, right? I think we knew that it was going to be a noon start before the season started, right? It wasn't that 10-day window stuff. But I mean, when you see the temperatures, I don't know. I guess you can't move the game back, can you? Because
I
you know,
I asked somebody of importance, why did they make it a noon start in the first week of September? And his answer was one word: television.
yeah.
They had a
Well,
deal with CBS Sports, so there you go.
do you know it was Armed Forces Day on CBS Sports Network? Army, Navy, and Air Force playing back to back to back. So, but I know we're in college sports, so it's completely different. But in high school, if that heat index reaches above 95, they're not allowed to play. They're not allowed to
Well,
play until it goes under in New York
yeah.
State, at least. I don't know if it's other states, but I don't know. Well, I mean, it worked out for Army. They won 24-7. I mean, we can get into the game now. Man, it's 14-7 at halftime, and I'm like, this seems like they should be up by not one touchdown, maybe 2, 3, 4 touchdowns after the first half. They pretty much dominate the first half. Cam Fancher, the Florida Atlantic quarterback, was out of rhythm. He couldn't. Sometimes he couldn't even hold on to the ball, and it's just like I thought they should have been up a little bit more. What was your thought in the first
Well,
half?
it's the same thing. They dominated the first quarter. The two quick touchdowns on the two opening drives. Listen, they would have scored at least a field goal if Kanye doesn't, turn the ball over on the 31-yard line. They were driving. They were looking really good. I think that play was a first down play. I think he made a first down on it, and the ball came out. Um, I have to assume that they would have scored something there. So 17,
Mhm.
and they would have eaten up the rest of most of the rest of the quarter. There was 3 minutes left or so, 3 or 4 minutes left. So they should have gone into the locker room up 17-0 or 21-0. Instead, FAU scored its only touchdown and made it a 14-7 game. Good news, Army got the ball to start the second half. But it should have been a 21-0 game. Kanye's fumbled, changed it. And, of course, he came out of the game. Somebody said it was 12 offensive plays in a row he was out for. I thought it was less than that, but okay.
Hmm.
But he came out and, I'm sure Monken, talked to him about holding on to the ball. He told us that in the press conference yesterday. I expect my players to hold on to the ball with two hands. And I guess Kanye didn't.
Yeah.
I think he was trying for those extra yards, and sometimes when these kids try for those extra yards, they let go
Well,
for a second.
first, the Florida Atlantic guy made a good defensive play. He knocked the
Oh,
ball out. He made a good defensive play. Sometimes there's good plays. I know that Coach Monken doesn't want any turnovers. We know how he talks about to his team a lot, but I got to give credit to the Florida Atlantic guy. He popped that out. I mean, yeah,
there you go.
Kanye was twisting trying to get some extra yards, but that was a pretty good play by the Florida Atlantic defensive player, I thought. I
Look,
mean, I don't know if you hold it as tight as you want. He popped it out pretty good. He made a good effort on that. So
let me be clear about something. Again, in the press conference, Coach Monken, he really likes these guys. I think I've been dealing with him for a few years now, and he always likes his players. But he seems to have a special relationship with his team. And Kanye is one of these kids that he really, really likes. And I think it bothered him to take him out. Just the way he sounded. He didn't say it, but he sounded like. And at the end, he made a point of, Kanye Udo is gonna contribute to this team over the short haul and the long haul. And it just shows that he really has some sort of a stronger relationship than I've seen with other players. It's always good. This is a step or two ahead. And so, I think it hurt him to take him out of the game, but I think he was sending a message to the whole team, not just to Kanye Udo, but to the whole team. Hold on to the ball. I agree with you. It was a good play by the FAU player. But he still has to send that message, or wants to send that message. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think there's anything, he has backups, and he got him back in the game, and he participated, and he held on to the ball. I think he got caught for a chop block later in the third quarter,
I'm
didn't
not
he?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he
maybe.
did. Yeah, so those are the two things he did wrong. But hey, the guy ran for 72 yards, and I watched this kid. I watched him up close too at one point. He's working his butt off. He is. He's working his butt off, as is everybody on this Army team. And I agree with Jeff Monken. This team seems to have a kinship that goes a step further than I've seen in the past.
Yeah, I think that real quick. I think I'm going to be honest, and I think you're walking a tight spot there because he's one of your better players, right? Yes, you as a coach, if you feel like you have to send a message, send a message. But he, like I was saying, when Army was when he was out and Army had the ball, I was saying get him back into the game. Yeah, Hayden Reed was doing a good job. Hayden Reed was picking up yardage. He was getting, moving the ball well. But I'm like, you got to have him on the field to present that weapon, and then you could play Hayden Reed in this. You could use Hayden Reed in different spots too, because Hayden Reed almost had an amazing catch down the sidelines. You can use Hayden Reed. You can play both of those guys at the same time. I think Army's pretty good when those guys are on the field at the same time. They don't do it often so far. They haven't done it often yet. But, I don't know. You're walking a kind of, I mean, yeah, the message.
But that's what he said in the press conference. He made a point, when we I think I asked the question about Kanye, and somebody else asked it later. He made a point of saying, "Hey, I'm taking him out because he didn't have both hands on the ball." But then later on, right away, he said, this guy's a really good kid. This guy's a great player. He gives his all 100% of the time. He gives 100%, 100% of the time, and he's going to help us. He made a point of saying that. So,
Yeah.
walking the tightrope, but it was tough love for a few seconds there, 12 plays, if that was the case. And then he got right back, into the game. He participated right as he would normally. He was giving them balls. He was carrying the balls. He was blocking. He was doing everything he was supposed to do. So I got no beef with what Jeff Monken did. He's still a sophomore. He's learning. He's only a sophomore. And again, you're sending a message to the whole team, and he wants to do that. This might be a special team here. No matter how many games they win or lose, this might be a special team. Just the way they've come together already.
Well, we saw an offense. Okay, we saw an offense that I mean, again, the distribution's like really solid. The slot backs are, I mean, Noah Short. I'm not going to say Noah Short's a revelation because we knew what kind of Noah Short could be, a game breaking player. He could be a key player for Army this year. And for him to have 160 yards, that's the most yards by an Army slot back in Jeff Monken's era. So in the 11 years of Army football that he's coached, 10 plus years, no slot back has gained 160 yards. He has the most yards gained in the game, though. Short in his second game as slot back, and just looking at his first two games, his combination 243 yards are the most yards by any Army player in the first two games since Ahmad Bradshaw in 2017. So, I mean, that shows you they want to get the ball outside. And sometimes I'm like, the pitch maybe wasn't quite, maybe, I don't know. There was a pitch play and like say Samari Howard got hit for a 2-yard gain or right at the line, or Noah Short got hit for a shorter gain. But I'm like, you got to get the ball out there so it loosens up the defense inside, right? And
absolutely.
I mean, we're not seeing huge plays by the fullback runs, but we're seeing good enough runs to keep the ball moving, and we're seeing Daly I think he had a 30-yard run in this game. I'll tell you, I just put out a poll for the play of the game in the Army's win. Their first, we should have said this already. I think we didn't. We didn't. Their first ever win, first game in the AAC. They're 1-0 now. I think Navy and them are both 1-0 in the conference now. So we'll see Navy handle Temple, and Army has Temple in 2 games down the road on Thursday night. Play of the game for the win. Was it? I think it was Noah Short's run 49 yards and Bryson Daly throwing that block 40 yards down the field.
I agree with it. I think that was the play of the game too. It set up the second touchdown, right?
Yeah. And I think, man, it shows you Army football, what Army football is all about, right? How many quarterbacks are sprinting down the field once they pitch the ball and setting that block? I'll tell you how many. One, Bryson Daly. That's it. That's the only person.
If you would have said to me 2 years ago that Bryson Daly is going to be the go-to, this great quarterback at West Point, I would have sat there and said, "Yeah, I don't know. I don't know." This guy has impressed me last season. He impressed me against Lehigh, and he super impressed me with his playing, running, and even throwing. He threw 4 passes, but they were okay passes. One was a great pass. One was a wide open guy in the end zone that he came in a little bit short, but he was being rushed. It was a hurried pass.
Catchable ball.
Yeah, catchable ball. It should have been maybe caught. Okay, but the bottom line is that Bryson Daly has, he's Mr. West Point. This guy is, and the team loves him, and the offense gets around him like no other. Noah Short, I said it in our preseason, I expected big things from him, and so far he's exceeded those. He's opened up the offense. This kid is quick to get around the corner, and he's got guys chasing him, 10, 15, 20 yards down the field more than once or twice a game. He's a do everything kind of ball player. And he's making a big difference, and he's opening up the middle for Army because they're worried about him going on the outside. I'd like to see Army throw the ball successfully a little bit more. When you start playing some other teams, teams are going to start getting used to what we do, what West Point does. They don't practice it that much, to Jeff Monken's point yesterday, but they see what's happening, and they'll fine tune their plays. So Army has to keep improving, as Monken said yesterday, in order, because other teams are going to improve. And I think a lot of that improvement has to come in the passing game. Has to come in the passing game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the missing ingredient, possibly. Like Monken says, there's still a lot left out there on the offense. And you're right. Maybe it is the passing game and like connecting on those. I mean, a couple times he's, him and Noah they missed on a couple big plays. Those are going to come. Those plays came last year. Noah had a couple big touchdown catches last year. So, yeah, I mean, for Bryson Daly, sophomore year when he got a chance to play, and yes, it was fourth quarter time, he broke off 2 big runs for touchdowns. So you knew there was something there, and he was just waiting his turn behind 3 senior quarterbacks. And, I mean, you follow, you're on social media a lot, and you see guys like Tyler, following the team and giving some, praise to his former teammates. And, one is he's Noah Short is getting a lot of love from the former teammates and even his current teammates. Noah's a very engaging guy, very likable guy, a guy who will do anything for your team. He even said in the press conference, right? He says, "Guys, you need me to play defense? I'll go back on defense for you if you need me. Wherever you need me to play."
He does everything. He does, but he's not a big kid. He's not a big kid. He's, I'm going to guess, what is he, 5'11", 170, 180 pounds? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's in here someplace, but, and he's getting hit hard, maybe down the field 20 yards, but he's still getting hit hard. He's a smart player. I mean, Daly's a smart player. Kanye seems to be this is a lot of smart players on this team. And I'm not saying the Army doesn't have smart players all the time. I think they do. They're probably one of the smarter teams year in and year out in college football. But these guys are smart. They're talented. this has the makings of a really good team. Hey, listen, we don't know what's going to happen, but this has the makings of a really good team, a really special team at West Point.
Yeah, I think they're like you said, if the passing game can click, we'll see what happens. They get the bye. We'll talk about that later, and they have some time to work on things. They have an extra week now to work on things, and this bye is the earliest they've had a bye since 2008. It's crazy. They haven't.
It's an
They
early
had
buy,
one
yeah.
in 2020. They had a bye week on September 19th because the season started, I think, 1 week later than it should have, or something to that effect. There may be somebody backed out of a game or something like that. But
Probably.
yeah. So the off. I want to ask you this. We got to talk about now. The play of the game. Also, another play of the game was the fake field goal and Matt Rhodes scoring on an like an option play by the holder. It's crazy, and
Right.
and the way he just kind of ran it, had the kicker running alongside a Trey Granati running alongside the left of him, and then he could have, I guess, pitched it to Granati if he wanted to, but he kept it, and the way he got a great block from Hayden Reed, he got a great block from Owen Walt. The long snapper got out there and blocked on the edge there. I mean,
Right.
that's pretty impressive. Owen Walter, got to give Owen Walter tons of credit for that. And there goes a 23-yard touchdown by the holder that I'm going to say have you ever seen anything like that and you're covering you're watching college football forever?
I mean, I'm sure a holder's done it before. Usually they get a first down if they're lucky. This was a touchdown. Um, I think everybody in the press box was surprised. We were talking about it before the play that it just doesn't make any sense to go for the field. We thought he'd leave the offense out there.
Hmm.
And Monken said later at the press conference that he didn't think the offense could get those needed yards. I think it was 4 or 5.
Hmm.
He said he didn't think they could get it, so he came up with his trickery. Hey, this is 2 weeks in a row of special teams trickery, and my prediction is we're going to see more trickery down the road from the offense too, not just the special teams.
Hmm.
I think they're putting stuff in all over the place. The play calling has been spectacular. And kudos to the coaching staff.
Cody Worley. Yep,
Cody
done a great
Worley's
job.
he's so far has done a great job, and Munkin's involved in that too. And of course the special teams. Sean has done a great job with the special teams doing what they have to do.
Yeah.
We really haven't seen the Army special teams that much. They punted how many times yesterday?
Yeah.
They punted all
Three,
on
three
Lehigh.
or four, three or four
Yeah.
against
And they were
Fargo.
pretty good punts, a little line drivey. The
That's
punts were
fine.
long, but line drives. I like to see them up in the air a little bit longer, so defense gets under there. But okay, they're fine. And we really haven't seen much in the kicking game. We saw one field goal attempt, and everything else. The point afters he's making. So I think that fake was everything because it really took the wind out of FAU. It's late in the game. It's in the fourth quarter. Instead of being down 2 scores, they're down 3 scores. It's hot, tired. Their fans have left. Um, I think really just put that was the nail in the coffin. And I know you had 11 minutes left, and they drove down, and the Army defense, which we haven't talked about yet, made a key stop. Four stops inside the 5. But I really think that was such a smart call and well executed. And who knows, you might be right about that option because the kicker was right there
He
running
could
with
have.
him. He
Probably
could have.
don't
He could
want
have.
to. Probably just a
Yeah.
decoy or whatever. But
Right. Yeah. And there were a
um,
couple of great blocks. Hayden's block was great. And who's the other guy? Had another
O-
nice block.
Owen Walter, the long
Oh,
snapper.
yeah, had a great block. A great block. So, I mean, and then that's it. They're up 24-7, and that was the game, of course. That was their final score.
Yeah. That capped a 15 play over 10-minute drive, which is crazy,
Hmm.
crazy in that heat too. And I was going to ask you, I haven't had a chance to rewatch the whole game, but I'm guessing that offensive line stayed out there the whole drive. I doubt they subbed in offensive linemen because normally they don't do that in the middle of a drive. They do it like every other drive. Sometimes they'll bring in another, but I think the offensive line was probably out there the whole time.
I think so too. I didn't notice many changes, if any. I wasn't keeping track. I guess I should, but there are plenty of things to keep track of. They were out there the whole, they were subbing as much as they could. FAU was subbing more than Army was.
Yeah.
But honestly, I didn't see many guys cramp up. I saw a couple, but you didn't get too many guys cramping on either team. Especially, I care more about Army, but I think
Yeah, I
that was
think
a good
Army had
sign.
two,
Yeah.
Chance Keith and Brett Jarena maybe that I saw on
Yeah,
TV at
Brett,
least.
I remember Brett, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the key there is keeping these guys hydrated. Boy, I mean, I say it again, it was hot out there and there was absolutely no cover for anybody. That is a glorified, it's not a bad looking stadium, but it's wide open. It's
Yeah.
wide open. And by the way, I expect them to do some upgrades there. The scoreboard is tiny. The scoreboard in the other end zone is practically non-existent. And I'm surprised the AAC or the NCAA doesn't complain to them about their clock they have, because it's in the middle. So on one side, the play clock, you can barely, from my angle, you can barely see it. Now I was in the
Hmm.
press box, but it was hidden among a lot of other things. And I'm sure the players knew where to look, but I would think somebody would have to complain about that eventually. I bet you FAU, because they want to become bigger, they want people. They have a 30,000 person student body. They want people to go to the games, and they're going to make that stadium much nicer as time goes on. They'll spend the money, I bet.
We'll see. We'll see. Your next trip to Florida Atlantic in like 4 or 5 years, you'll see if they made any improvements. But
Yeah, that's right.
hey,
We'll see.
the defense, right? First game, bend don't break, maybe bend a little bit too much. This game, I don't know. I think they definitely threw off Cam Fancher. The quarterback, he was not in rhythm at all. It seemed like he was
Hmm.
a little off key a lot of the first half. He might have found a rhythm on their one scoring drive, but then it was halftime. Um, Max DiDomenico makes an interception on a throw down the field that, if it's complete, maybe that leads to something. Who knows? But it was double covered. I don't think that was going to be a complete pass. And then toward the end of the game, that goal line stand, hey, you put up 7, you don't want to put up any more. And that was a little bit of because there was a substitution penalty on Army during that drop, that goal line where they got moved the ball up 2 yards or something. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Max DiDomenico was the first person to make contact on that fourth down run by Fancher. He was sneaking on a fourth. I don't know what they were doing there. Who knows? But the defense pretty much stood pretty well. I wasn't expecting this game to be a shootout by any means. I thought it would be like a close, tight game, but you only give up 235 yards total in your first AAC game. You got to be pretty happy about that.
Yeah. What I see different with this team, and I've noticed it a little bit last year too, is that the first guy hitting the runner, the guy with the ball, he's making the tackle much more often. In the past, going back, I've been following Army football for decades, as you know, many decades. From 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even, the first guy who hit the ball carrier didn't make the tackle. He might have slowed him down. He might not have done anything. This team, they're hitting him. They're hanging on to the guys. The pursuit is excellent.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of young guys out there.
They're swarming
And
the ball. They're swarming the ball.
they are. They are. I saw it against Lehigh, and I saw it against Florida Atlantic. They're aggressive playing. The defense is not playing off the receivers as much as they used to back in the day. A few years ago. Maybe because there's more talent out there. There's a lot of young players out there. When I say young, in terms of experience, besides Max in the secondary, you got a lot of inexperienced guys. And you know what? You wouldn't have guessed it. The guy I was sitting next to on my left, he kept talking about the fact, wow, these secondary looks really good. Looks really good. He was an FAU guy, and I'm like, they're young in experience, not necessarily young
Yeah.
in years.
Yeah.
It's a
They
great.
were playing without Damian
Good.
Washington too, who started the first game. He was out. A guy who really impressed me was Gavin Shields. He's a junior, and seemed to be, he didn't start, but I guess in passing situations they brought him in maybe as a fifth guy, and he was around the ball. He broke up 2 passes. He had a tackle for a loss. He had 4 tackles. That's a pretty good game for somebody that's coming, as your fifth guy, fifth defensive back, so to speak. So
Yeah. The one thing I'm going to say it, okay, and it's 2 games in. I do not believe we have a sack yet.
Nah,
If we do, I don't think we
nah.
do. And against some of these teams, we're going to have to put on a stronger rush. I thought the rush was pretty good. They hurried the ball a few times, but
Yeah.
we're going to have to get some sacks in there because some of these other teams have quarterbacks that might be a step a little bit better. I don't know who those teams are going to be quite yet, but there's somebody. I think North Texas got handed. Sam Houston beat them yesterday. I didn't expect that. And did UTSA lose yesterday? I think they might have.
No, I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah.
But I want to make a point. First off, if you guys are watching, we're going to be on for a little while longer. If you have any comments or questions for Seth and I, please send them in. I want to make a point on the defensive pass rush. Ella Mendoza is doing a really good job. Like, he's doing his job. He's demanding double teams. He's putting pressure on the quarterback. He's getting held too. He got held a bunch of times when I'm watching during the game too. Literally like grabbing a jersey and like as he's going around the corner. So, I mean, what can you do? I mean, they're going to get to the quarterback. I think in this game, the sack total is not as important as getting the Cam Fancher out of his rhythm, making them uncomfortable. He didn't want to be in the pocket too much. I think that Florida Atlantic should have had a little bit of a plan to have a little bit more quicker release for him. And when they did, he was successful, a little bit more successful. But I mean, I think the defense, no sacks, the one turnover on the interception, but you walk away with 7 yards allowed. That's a pretty good day. And I want to say, let's go to Eric Helwig real quick. Defense looks much better than I was expecting with all the turnover. Yeah, absolutely. Nate Woody's just a constant there, right? And when you have guys, you're strong up the middle, right? I'm gonna. Kyle Lewis is not playing nose tackle anymore, but I think his move to defensive end has been very good on those outside kind of runs by Florida Atlantic at the point of attack. He was holding up his end of the bargain and getting good penetration so other guys could rally. I think that's been a good call. They're rotating the nose tackles in. Jacob Tuioti made a nice play, and I think in the backfield of in the game, he didn't get to start, but Cody Harris, Miller, him, Cody Weineker, three-headed nose tackles, fine. Rotate them in, keep them fresh. And you got Caleb Fortner in the middle, and you got Max in the middle that are returning guys. So those guys are your experienced guys. And, you got players like Andon Thomas that are playing pretty well. Chance Keith, 7 tackles, led the team in tackles on the outside, playing that former Apache. I'm not sure if they still call that the Apache like hybrid position. He played probably his best game against Florida Atlantic, right? So let's go to Mike. Let's go to Mike Fulowski. 2 games in, we seem pretty healthy going into the bye week. I thought I heard on the radio maybe Hayden Reed was injured, but we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. Did you see that, Seth, or no? Down there.
Again, the scuttlebutt in the press box was that he seemed to be injured, but Monken made no reference to that during the press conference. So no, I didn't expect him to either. Nobody asked. I think we're all so happy with what we saw. He was the only one that really came. That walking away saying, okay, that's the only injury I possibly saw. I'm not even sure he's injured. And again, it could have been heat exhaustion. So who knows?
Yeah, we don't know. But he's an important guy because he's a special teams guy. He's important in the offense. He's that Swiss Army knife for them, so to speak. I mean, when Udo needs a breather, he can pump it, go into the fullback. Jake Rendino also can do that too. So important guy. You got real quick back to the offense. Tyrell Robinson's still, he's going to play at some point during this year. And if he's anything of what he was, I think they're not going to brush him back. They're being careful with him and they want him to be as the best that he can. And the best with Tyrell Robinson is going to add that's another weapon they're going to add to this offense.
Tyrell Robinson, and it just adds another outside threat that can only help. I
didn't even see Eric Helwig's question there. I just brought him up. Coach Monken's been he hasn't been he said that he liked to have Tyrell play by the end of September. Now, I don't know if we'll have to see. We'll have to see if he practices this week in full. My thinking is he's been practicing, but not full contact yet. So, we'll see. I mean, at Rice coming up in 2 Saturdays from now, then a quick turnover on a Thursday against Temple, right? If he doesn't play by then, I think we'll have to wait to see him against Tulsa in the first game in first week in October. But right now, the offense is going pretty smoothly. The offense is going pretty smoothly. Is there a rush to get him back if he's not where 1,000%? Not necessarily. It would be nice to see him back on the field. It'd be nice to have him in the mix. But I'll tell you, one of the unsung players of this offense so far in the first 2 games is Miles Stewart, slot back. I don't even think Miles has a carry. But Noah Short is crediting him all the time with his downfield blocking. He's the one that's leading Noah Short on that edge. And if Noah Short is averaging 12.3 yards a carry on 19 carries in the first 2 games, well, and he's crediting the mob. It's easy to run behind the mob, but when you're getting those edge blocks from your receivers and that fellow slot back, I want to give Miles Stewart a little credit there, a little notice because he's doing pretty well. We have Federico.
I agree. I saw some very good blocking from Miles.
Yeah,
and
that's unselfish. He's a senior. He's a guy who's waited for his chance to play, Seth, right? He's waited for his chance to start. And now here he is doing whatever's best for the team. And I think that down the road in a game, you're going to see Miles Stewart sneak, maybe get a run in the open field. Because that when he played at prep school, he was also a kick returner, punt returner. And he has wheels, Miles Stewart. He can get some yards too on the edge for you if you need it too. So I think that he's going to play a pivotal role at some point in the season. That's just not going to be blocking. Maybe it's a catch down, maybe it's a play action pass, a wheel route down the field. I think that but you talk about the ultimate teammate right now. A lot of these guys are going to put the team ahead of themselves. Pretty much everybody on Army does, right? But man, I should give Miles Stewart a lot more credit in my writing, especially when I do these quick thoughts things, because talking when we review stuff brings up things about certain players and stuff. Anything else you want to touch on? We went over the offense. We went over one thing I did want.
Well, let's go full circle on the offense. The offensive line wasn't being pushed around. These guys were opening holes. Give them credit too. We didn't talk about them much, but they're opening some holes. They're not being pushed back. They're doing what they're supposed to do. And maybe they're a little bit the unsung heroes. Bryson Daly, and both press conferences, Bryson Daly made mention of those guys. And
sure.
You got to give them some credit. They're doing their jobs, and it's nobody talks about offensive lines too much, but these guys, only when things go bad, they talk about them. But here they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're opening holes inside, and some of them are getting outside to help on the sweep. Give them more credit.
Did Lucas Scott have like a pull block that was like, I'm like, this is something I almost see in the pros,
No.
And I tell you, the more I see Lucas Scott play and how he's got the flexibility to play guard or tackle, I see Army post on their social medias, hey, the Cardinals dropped by today, thank you. The Panthers dropped by, thank you. I don't know. They got to be – they're not just – those teams just stop by to say hi, They're looking at somebody. And I think that – I don't know anything. But I think if you're looking at somebody, that Lucas Scott could be one of the guys that they're looking at, because he's playing at a really high level. And so is, all the offensive line in general. We talk about this because it came out after our review last week, but the PFF college football, they grade every game at the FBS level. And they had Brady Small and Paulo Generali on their group of 5 team last week. And I think they had Brady as the 2nd best center in the country and Paulo Generali as the 7th best player at his, and they had Lucas Scott as the 13th best. So there's 3 guys in 1 week. And you know what? They might be on it again this week. we got to watch out. I think they put those out earlier in the week. Coming up, we'll have to look out for it. We'll write about it. And I did want to get into one more thing before we look ahead. Do you think we'll run a fake field goal for a touchdown every week, Eric? Well, I think that'd be a little predictable, right?
That'd be interesting if they try that again
But
anytime soon.
truth be told, in scrimmages, I've seen them run some trick plays out of field goals. I'm not going to say which ones I've seen, but they do try them in like a scrimmage like situation. And some of them I'm like, they'll never use that play in a game. That play is not going to work. I'll tell you if they run that play that I saw them run in the scrimmage. I'll tell you if they use it in a game. But if they do and it works, it'll be another one for because real quick, Matt Rhodes, number 5 top play on the college football final on ESPN last night. So
Whoa,
Army getting some. I tweeted out to an ESPN anchor. I'm like, this is a top play candidate, no doubt. And who knows if that helped? I mean, I got the word out a little bit. I do what I can. Do we have another one here? What a teaser. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say what it is because then, if Rice coaches are watching or Temple coaches are watching our podcast, which the chances are, probably 2%. But I want to talk about real quick the end of the first half. And I know it's, we're saying how, we have sunshine and rainbows and the pot of gold and Army is 2-0. And, I don't know what they were doing at the end of the first half because I think they had 48 seconds left. I think they had 2 timeouts. They ran the ball with Hayden Reed 8 yards. They ran the ball, didn't call a timeout, ran the ball. I thought they were going to just eat the clock, take a knee, and go into halftime 14-7. Then Reed gets the first down. Then the clock runs down. I forget how many seconds were left when they called. Did they call timeout? Did they not call timeout?
I think Army called timeout. And then I think FAU called timeout.
I don't know.
Because everybody expected, I think everybody who's left in that stadium expected Army to take a knee. And they called timeout, and then you say, okay, now why would you call timeout? You're 60 yards away from the end zone. You can't kick a field goal. You can't even try for a field goal. I don't get it. I don't get it. Quite frankly, I don't really care that much because they were winning and they won the game, and nothing bad happened. But it was a little bit weird.
I would like to see them in that situation. It's a 14-7 game. Yeah, you have the ball coming out of the half, right? I would like to see them take a shot.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Shot? One shot, and if it works.
Downside? What's the downside? You pass the ball 40 yards down, even if it's intercepted, as long as it's not taken back all the way, almost all the way. You're probably going out of time if they take it back and they don't score.
Yeah.
But why not give it a shot? And then you call timeout, you try a field goal. Maybe it works. Maybe a field goal. I don't know why you either take the knee or you try something. I don't know what happened there. Nobody brought it up.
It was kind of in between. It was like, let's see what we can get on. Like if Hayden Reed broke off a 20-yard run, do you call timeout? I don't know. I mean, I was happy that he advanced the ball and they moved the chains, and it's like, why are they? It was confusing. We'll see what happens next time we're in a 2-minute drill. So
I don't get it. I don't get it either. Anyway, we got Rice in 2 weeks, right? So
yeah. Well,
they're 1-1. They beat Texas Southern by 60 or so points.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
It doesn't count. And they lost to Sam Houston State 2 weeks ago by, I think, a size. Let's see if I get it up here. A size, I think, 34-14. Let's see if I have it.
Yeah, that was right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, 34-14 is right.
It's a home game, I mean, you do get the bye week. You're 2-0. It's another conference game. I mean, it's certainly, I think you're going to be favorite in this game. What that is worth, it's a game you should win. You should be able to win this. Got to win this, and then you would move on to Temple. But I think it's a winnable game. Maybe as this Rice, maybe I don't know. They throw a little bit more than. I mean, who knows? You can't really tell when they're
You
going up
can't tell
against.
when you're playing Texas Southern. You don't know what you get. Texas Southern is, it's just a different level of
Yeah,
ball.
they have
It's
that.
like us playing Delaware State last year. I think
Yeah,
it's the
they have
same
the
conference. Or
EJ Warner kid, right? I mean, is he the guy who played at Temple last year? I'm not sure. Yeah, he was at Temple last year. I mean, Rice was picked one. They were picked fourth, right? Army was picked fifth in the preseason poll. Win the game, go 3-0, and a lot of things are going in your favor. Use the bye week
well,
for what it's
the,
worth, and
the the bye week is a great. Listen, it's early, like you said, but this is I think a good time to get it because Rice could be that game where they're going to come in, they're going to want to beat Army. Army's getting some publicity now, and listen, every game in this league is going to be tough. I mean, there's some good teams. Fortunate we're not playing some of them this year. We're not playing Memphis. We're not playing Tulane at least until hopefully the championship game of the league. But everybody's going to want to beat up on Army now, and Rice is going to come in and they'll try their best. Again, what I know, from the scores and from the reading about it, Army should be favored. My guess, maybe a 10-point favorite here. But you
wow.
got to play the game. You got to play the game,
Hmm.
and we were a 2.5 point, 3-point dog to FAU, and look what happened.
Yeah,
They could do it. They
yeah,
could do it to West Point this time.
yeah.
So you got to be prepared. I'm sure we're going to see. We're not going to see it, but in the game, which I won't be at, as you know, unfortunately, but for good reason, I won't be there. My son's getting married, and I'll read about it. I'll read your story on it. But I imagine Army will have some tricks up their sleeve against Rice, and then also against Temple, which is only 5 days later, a Thursday night game in Philly.
Yeah.
And I don't expect Temple to have many fans there, so that's going to be interesting. It might be another Army or potential Army home game,
Jeez.
because Temple is just they're at the bottom of the conference right now, and I don't think there's a lot of enthusiasm. I don't know about the talent. I'm talking about the fan enthusiasm here, not about the players. So it could be a lot more Army people, or there are maybe as many Army
We'll
people
see.
as Temple.
That's
That's
so
2 weeks
far
though.
away. That's
Yeah,
not.
it's 2 weeks
That's
on the road. Yeah,
that's way. But Rice does play Houston this week, coming up at Houston. So they
they
play
do.
a
Yeah.
quote Power Four team. I think Houston didn't they get blasted on Saturday? I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. So they're gonna play this Saturday coming up. Army's gonna be watching, and pretty in good shape here. In good shape. Like, I kind of laughed a little bit when we did not laughed. I don't know, chuckled. Chuckle when Connor from Barstool Sports was on here and said, "Let's go undefeated," and here we are 2-0. And I think I want to give Brendan in Jersey credit for this, and I should have put it in my Quick Thoughts blog, and I have to rewrite my Quick Thoughts blog, my Quick Thoughts entry. Any year that Army's gone 2-0 in the Jeff Monken era, they've gone to a bowl game. So I think this is the fifth time that they've gone 2-0, and the previous 4 times they've been to a bowl game. So I mean, and if you look at it, most of the time when you start the season 2-0, yeah, you need 4 more wins, to go get bowl eligible. So at the next, 9 or 10 games, you got to win 4 of them, But now the way the schedule's set up, there's potential to get a couple more and then see what happens. See what happens. So let's
I
see.
gotta tell you, I think people are thinking much more than 6 or 7 or 8 wins. This team, if things come together, the schedule lines up perfectly. Air Force doesn't seem to be as good as it was last year. They lost a lot of players. Navy is Navy. Hey, Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. And
Yeah.
I got back to my hotel room yesterday as I was writing the story. I'm watching that game, and I wasn't impressed at all with Notre Dame's offense at all.
Nah, they're
Northern
vanilla.
Illinois,
They're very
yeah,
vanilla.
yeah. So I mean, the defense was fine. And it was what was the final score, 17-14 or 15-14? I think it was
16-14.
16-14. So the defense played well, but give credit to Northern Illinois too. But I didn't see anything in that Notre Dame. Now they're bigger and they're faster than Army, and
Yeah.
that's way down the line. But who knows what could happen here? This could be this could be one of those seasons,
Yeah.
1996 type season. Who
Well,
knows?
let's see. Pump the brakes a little bit. Scott says, I like the
Yeah.
attitude of this year's team. They feel like they have something to prove. Yeah, after 6-6 the last 2 years, and Bryson Daly being at the senior class has been through those seasons of 6-6, just but they did, win the last four. And now I think they're six games in a row they've won now. And I think it's the second or third longest winning streak in the country. So I think Arizona's ahead of them, and maybe they're tied
Arizona's the
with
only
some.
one. I think Arizona, maybe they're tied, but Arizona only one ahead of them. I
Yeah.
asked Bryson that question. I said, how important was this game? And he said, and I used to quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it here in my story. He says, we have to prove. He said we have to prove something to the league that we belong. And I think that's going to be the beauty of this conference for West Point, short term and long term, is that these kids now have a barometer to prove themselves beyond Air Force and Navy. Because in the past, they were playing different teams from different
Yeah.
leagues, and it was hard to measure just how good you really are. Now you're playing in a conference that may be, the fifth or sixth best conference in the country. It might be one of the two best Power Four conferences with the Mountain West. I mean, I can't think of anybody who might say
The Sun Belt, I think, is, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I think the Sun Belt is better, but that's just me.
I
I think the
don't
Sun
think
Belt
so.
is deeper.
Yeah.
I think the Sun Belt
Yeah.
is deeper.
The MAC conference might be better.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're beating up on Notre Dame.
But wait a second, Seth. Kent State, I believe, lost to St. Francis of PA.
Okay. Bowling Green lost by 7 points to Penn State. So
we'll see. You can make those arguments.
That's a bad loss, by the way. St. Francis of PA is what league do they play in? They play in the Northeast Conference, don't they?
Wow. Yeah, they do, Seth. Yep. But you know what? I have to say, college football is great, right? Because you look at Thomas Hammock yesterday at Northern Illinois, right? And you look at the St. Francis locker room after they beat Kent State. That meant the world to them, beating Kent State, right? And you look at the emotion that the Northern Illinois coach showed in his interview. And I watched the locker room stuff. And I'm a big fan of, like, after the game, seeing the celebrations after, even with the Army, go on Brave Old Army team playing it. You see the videos that Army posts. College football is great, and I hate that what the transfer window and the transfer portal, and what the NILs have done to college football. But still, in its basic form, when you can have David versus the Goliath, and David win, number 5 team in the country, knock off the number 5 team in the country, that certainly gives I'm sure Army players, Army fans watching say, hey, that game at Yankee Stadium, maybe some of them had it. Some Army fans had it as maybe something that wouldn't go Army's way. But now they see you play Notre Dame hard, play them for 4 quarters, you got a chance. You certainly got a chance. You play them as hard as you could possibly can. You throw schemes at them that are not the easiest to defend. You have a really gutty quarterback and a really emotional coach and good coaching. Anything can happen. So,
and we don't know where these teams are going to be, in middle of November. We don't know whether Notre Dame is going to be 8-1 or 9-1, whatever the record is, or they're going to be 4-5 or 5-4 or 6-3, and not carrying as much because they're not getting into the tournament anymore.
We'll see.
Army, we don't know. We don't know. Army has a lot more. My guess is when we get close to that, and Army does pretty well, if they do pretty well, and I think they will. They're going to have a lot more to play for because they're going to be trying to impressing scouts, and who knows, somebody from the group of 5 is getting into that tournament. Okay, and I'm dreaming a little bit here, but there's no reason not to believe it can't be Army.
Northern Illinois, I think, is ranked 25 in this week's AP poll with that win.
They're right now the team. Yeah, they're the team for now.
We'll see what happens.
There you go.
Guys, we really appreciate you watching this podcast. We're gonna try. I'm gonna try to have some podcasts in between now and the next game against Rice on the 21st. Maybe get former player up. If you have a chance, I haven't put out the links yet, but watch the podcast that I did with Dave Hagman, former Army defensive lineman. Man, Dave's been through it all. He was on the 96 team as a freshman that, won 10 games. He was on the first Conference USA team the next year. He was in that crazy game that I don't know if Army fans will remember, double overtime against Louisville. He played in that game when Michael Wallace went nuts. Then he went on to serve in Iraq and some pretty heavy stuff in Iraq. Then he's now a Denver Fire. He's a assistant chief of the Denver City Fire Department in Colorado. So, I mean, the guy's lived a full life. Please listen to that podcast. It's a really good podcast with Dave Hagman. It's on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're creeping up to 1,000 subscribers. Well, this is up. We have our previews up there too. Like I said, gonna effort trying to get a coach this week from Army. Hoping I can get. Hoping I can get Sean Saturnio this week. Or an Army coach this week. Okay. Seth is out of here. We'll say, Seth, thank you. He's out. And guys, just check out our website, Black Knight Nation. And we'll see you soon. Check out our social media stuff too. And we'll be back with another podcast very soon on the Black Knight Nation channel. Have a good night.